Hello, everybody. Welcome. Adam, Rosine, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
I can
Good.
hear you, Brandon.
We got quite a few people in lobby coming in. The number keeps climbing. Welcome to Rate Case July 2025. I know it's been an adventure and a journey for all of us getting here, both internally here at BCC Software, as well as externally for all you customers. And I know it's going to continue to be that way over the next month or so as this gets released, and really over the next 6 months as we prepare for January's rate case as well. So today we have myself, Brandon Kellaway. I'm in charge of marketing here at BCC Software. We also have Adam Coaster and Rosine Gray representing BCC Software, both in direct. He's the director of product management, and Rosine is our senior support supervisor. They are going to be presenting today. And then in addition to that, we have Tammy and Zach, who will be moderating the Q&A session. So we encourage everyone throughout this presentation to be contributing questions to the Q&A thread of the Teams meeting. And in place of using chat, please, whenever possible, although we'll also be moderating chat to make sure we're catching everybody. The structure for today, we are focusing on the top key takeaways of July 2025's rate case. For those who have not had the chance to take a look at our overview magazine that we prepared, I'm going to drop a link in chat for everybody to reference this on their own time. It was part of our marketing setup going out in advance of this meeting today. And of course, we will be dedicating a very large chunk of the latter half of this meeting to addressing people's questions in as much detail as possible. For those who need to drop off early or cannot attend, we will also be sending everybody a recording of today's session following the meeting once everything is packaged and ready to go. So with that, I'm going to turn things over to Adam and Rosine. Please take it away.
Thanks, Brandon. So first of all, welcome everybody. We're very excited to have you here, and hopefully we can shed some light, answer some questions on what we're going to be expecting for July, give you a little bit of a sneak preview of what we know is coming for January. And as we've been working over this set of changes at BCC Software, there's no question that what we're dealing with in July and then also coming in January is some of the biggest changes that we've been seeing from the post office that will be affecting our software and will be affecting the structure of what the post office expects you to be doing to prepare your mail. So hopefully, as we go through this, if there's questions that we haven't answered in this general presentation, like Brandon said, please be using that chat feature. We'll either be answering those live or answering those in the Q&A with Tammy and Zach moderating there. Like Brandon said, we will get through this all together with these major changes that are coming at us. The biggest thing that I want to call out to start everything here is that we have been working on these changes, BCC Software, in some capacity, whether that just be in conversations in industry meetings, reviewing documentation, looking over the overview documents that the USPS has put out, or just scoping the work since sometime mid-February. Since mid-February, a huge amount of changes have come down the pike. We'll talk about one of those major changes that is not happening and how that's affected everything across the board. And then as we go through some of the other changes, we'll touch on how our software is going to be treating those things, and also how you should be expecting to see those things transition as we get closer to July 13th. The first thing to call out here is just a couple of important dates. These are the dates that we normally get. Hopefully they're not a surprise for the June 29th and the July 13th dates there. Those are the normal dates that we see as we get close to a rate case. June 29th, we will get the Postal One deployment. That will mean that you can download and start submitting jobs through Postal One that have that post July 13th mailing date. And in a perfect world, the software that you will be using to submit those will be coming either right before you already have that in hand or very, very shortly after that date. July 13th is the rate case implementation date. We will be talking about what the post office's rollover is going to look like there when we get closer to some of these changes here. We also have the July 29th date. There was an industry alert sent out regarding that date, and that's, again, a very similar thing to what we see every year, in that you have a certain amount of time, a certain leeway to enter mail that was submitted to the post office with the pre-July 13th rules and rates. And that is, and to get those into the mailing, the mailing network, the postal network, you have to do that before July 29th. So make sure you take a look at that industry alert. And then a couple of future looking dates until we start looking closer to January. We have a new promotion coming up. And if you're doing catalogs, make sure you are aware of those dates, because you can start to register for that new promotion. It's a big promotion for catalogs, 10% on all catalogs that qualify, beginning August 15th, and then you can start submitting those mailings with those promotion prices on October 1st. All right. First, the big elephant in the room of what didn't change. BPM was proposed to be removed was proposed by the post office to be removed somewhere back in October of last year, I believe it was. It was for sure end of last year. The post office was expecting the PRC, their Postal Regulatory Committee, to approve that, and so they've been moving forward with the assumption up until very recently that that would be in effect for the July 13th date. When the PRC approved the January 13th prices, BPM removal was not included in those, and so the post offices had to do a little bit of rework, had to do a little bit of changing gears. They kind of knew it was coming at some level, but also at the same time, there was a lot of things that weren't communicated or weren't put into writing as a result of them moving forward with the assumption that BPM would be going away. And if this is news to you, please let us know, and we'll make sure that those materials that they're proposing are available. But what we're expecting for BPM now is that they'll push it forward to January. We don't know for sure that we'll get an approval of that from the PRC either by January, but that is the kind of next set of assumptions that we'll be watching for BPM to be removed. And then some of the expansions that the post office was proposing to put into effect for marketing mail to come into effect at that time as well. The DNDC removal and other NDC removals is probably the biggest set of changes that most of our customers will have to be dealing with. Rosine, feel free to jump in anywhere here where you think there's something that we can clarify as we're going through this. And please make sure you're asking those questions in the chat, because this is going to be obviously the biggest set of changes. It'll change where you're entering mail if you were drop shipping before. If your local post office was an NDC and you were getting a DNDC discount, it'll change there. And then there's a couple of exceptions where NDC is not removed. So just to start at the top and work our way down, the biggest change that you will see is that all of our postage statements no longer have the DNDC lines. That means if you were drop shipping to a DNDC, you used to get that work share discount of those pallets that were sorted to that NDC service area. You get a little bit of a better price there. You can no longer drop ship any mail at the DNDC level across the board, right? That's a full stop. No longer enter it at a DNDC level. NDC pallets and sacks, where they were applicable, the major set of changes there is going to be in marketing mail. They had pallet levels that moved all the way up through NDC. Those have all been removed, except, you see a little asterisk after that bullet point, except in the case of marketing mail parcels. Those still have an NDC level and a mixed NDC level. Those are planned to be removed starting in January of 2026. The mixed NDC pallets and sacks have been removed and changed to a mixed level. That shouldn't change a whole lot on what you folks see coming out of the software, except that those pallet labels have been changed, and we're no longer using a label list to label those, right? So anything that was a mixed NDC pallet or a mixed NDC sack should now be called just a mixed, and it won't reference the entry point where that is going to be sorted to anymore. And we can get into that if people have questions there, but make sure you're reading your release notes when you get your software releases. Any products that had NDC rates themselves has been removed. That's, for example, like in Parcel Select had an NDC rate that also allowed drop shipping to NDCs. That's been removed, again, except in the case of marketing mail parcels. The big question mark that we have in this area is what will the post office be doing for mail that's already been created, that's already in production, may even be moving around the country already, that was sorted with NDCs and NDC or DNDC entry points. The full answer there is that we don't know for sure because they're still working on an official communication, but in the conversations that we have had with the post office, they are proposing to allow some grace period where if the pallet is still labeled as NDC or it was scheduled to be drop shipped to a facility that would have previously got the DNDC discount, they will still allow that for some amount of time. We don't know how long, and we don't have that officially in writing yet, but we'll be watching for that and making sure it's communicated to you. Obviously, if you are entering mail that has a drop ship or mailing date after July 13th, you will be getting the new rates for those, even if they are marked for that NDC rate or the DNDC discount. But the point there is that the post office will still accept it as sorted. And again, there's a lot of open questions there, but we'll let you know as soon as we've got something in writing. I guess real quick, Rosine, is there anything there that you can see that we should swing back to or answer? Because that is the big one.
Right. So like you said, if your verification facility is an NDC, can you still drop it there even though you don't get a discount anymore?
Yeah, so if your origin entry point is still is an NDC and has been an NDC, your origin should not be changing. For sure, if the post office in your communications with them and setting up your origin facility tells you to change it, then yes. But just because of this, your origin facilities should not be changing.
And will you still be able to drop ship even though you don't get the discount?
Once the grace period is ended, no, you will not. You will not be able to drop ship to a DNDC facility. Those facilities, if you use the mail direction file directly, or you're using BCC software to do that, you will see a couple of different things. If you're looking at FAST, you will see something different, right? So for the post office's data, whether it's through FAST or through the mail direction file, you will still see those facilities there. But you will also see a notification on FAST that those should not be used for anything to gain an NDC discount. If you're looking at the mail direction file, the messaging from the post office has been that they need to leave those in for systems until they can update their systems. And for an exceptional case for folks that have a Parcel Select NSA, and it includes those NDCs, they will need to continue to have that populated in the mail direction file. But based on the DMM language, nobody should be taking their mail to those facilities for that discount. Now, you may still take your mail to an NDC facility, but it would be for like something like a DSCF discount, right? The facilities themselves are not gone and the post office may still be directing mail to them. But if it was solely directed to that facility for the purposes of an NDC discount, then it won't be happening after January or the July 13th anymore. Go to the next one. Like I said, make sure you're keeping those or keep entering those questions in chat, and we'll circle back to as many of those as we can once we get through this. All right, another big one that we've got coming at us is the first class mail SCF pallet discount. This is for anything on an SCF pallet or better or equivalent for first class mail for flats and letters. In the DMM, you see a number of pallet levels that will apply here. The ADC and AADC are roughly equal, as well as the origin SCF pallet, kind of all are on the same level as that SCF pallet. So all of those will qualify for the discount. And the 5-digit pallets, which are more finely sorted, will also qualify for the discount. Basically, what the goal is for the post office is that they're going to incentivize customers to make more finely sorted pallets than previously. They'll get a little bit of a benefit for sorting mail to a pallet that the post office can just pick up when it gets dropped off to them, cross-dock it to the facility where it will be processed, and then break it apart there. Anything above that, they have to do an extra touch point on, and that causes extra work for them. So they're trying to incentivize more movement through the network without having to touch it at its origin. The other major thing here that we didn't get answers on until pretty late in the game was how would these apply to CSA pallets? Not all of the BCC software products cover CSAs, but for the ones that do, you'll see this there. And then also when you're uploading jobs that have CSAs to Postal One, anything that has a local, a surface, or an air separation should qualify for that SCF discount. If it's mixed or the single piece level, those will not qualify for the discount. Non-standard parcel fees is a little bit more of a niche thing. It's only going to impact the Priority Mail, Priority Mail Express, Ground Advantage, Connect Local, and Parcel Select parcels. So a lot of the mail that we have going through BCC software doesn't apply here, but a lot of them support this, and a lot of folks do take advantage of them. So this is good to know, and that is ultimately that previously we had non-standard parcel fees. Those were limited to length fees that were either the parcel was over 22 inches or over 30 inches, it got one of those length fees, or a volume fee, or both. What they will be adding is a new characteristic fee, and that is if it cannot be put on a machine in the post office's facilities, it will incur an extra fee based on the shape of the parcel ultimately. So they're calling out a few categories there: the cylindrical tubes or rolls, cans, wooden metal boxes, any parcel that contains over 24 ounces of liquid in a glass container, or, and this one's been a little bit fuzzy and the topic of a lot of conversation, any package that is in a poly wrap, basically, that ultimately that is too big for the contents within it, and the post office is defining that by if the wrapping can overlap and fold over on top of the label, then it can't be run on the machines efficiently and has to be sorted by hand. There may be a lot of questions about how that looks because the final DMM language has changed a couple times, and I know the post office is trying to avoid phrasing it in some ways that has been problematic in the past, and there's been a lot of conversation in the user groups about it as well. The other thing worth noting here is that for those non-standard fees, the length fee and the characteristic fee, you choose the higher of the two in terms of cost. You don't get both of them, and then you can qualify for both the volume and the characteristic fee as well. Another first-class mail change that we've got coming is the elimination of tub preparation and bundling there. Basically what it says on the package, right? Like when you are sorting flats for FCM into tubs, you cannot bundle them anymore. That'll change your preparation because as bundles were sorted before, you would rate each bundle individually. And then they've also changed the limit on, or the minimums on the tray levels to help facilitate more fine sortation. They've gone from 90 pieces to 50 pieces. And then in doing this elimination, they've also eliminated co-traying of the combining of non-automation and automation first-class flats as well. All right. And then a couple of miscellaneous updates. We'll call them miscellaneous just because they didn't get their own slide. But really, these are not necessarily smaller, especially if you've been doing these in the past. But I can talk about them in a single sentence or two. And if anybody wants any more explanation or anything deeper to go into, please put them in the chat there, and we will we'll jump back to any of these. So the first one that's gotten a lot of conversation as well is how the DML, Rosine, help me. What does DML stand for? It blanked on it.
Marketing label.
Thank you. The direct marketing labels has been combined into what was previously the +1 product that was just for letters, and then the +1 was a card. They're taking that DML product and combining it with that +1 for the flats that had a DML add-on and implementing it underneath the same heading. The big deal here, and that as we send these materials out, that link notes what the post office will be doing for technical implementation from now until January. And the subtext there is that we don't know exactly what the final technical implementation will look like. But in the meantime, what we've gotten from the post office is that if the method by which we submit a DML in eDocs, either the mail.dat or the mail.xml files, should continue to be the same as it was when it was DML, but it will get the +1 price and follow the +1 rules. As we get closer to January, we should have more technical details about what that will look like in the final implementation of what the post office wants to do. but we just don't have that yet, and so we don't know exactly how that's going to affect the software. For right now, though, if you used to be able to check a DML box, you probably will continue to be able to check that DML box, but it will do the correct thing on the back end for submitting that eDoc. The second bullet there, we've got library and media mail pre-sorted rates are eliminated. Those are both just single piece products now, and that is true across the board for those products. So if they're the sortation rules and all of the rates associated with the pre-sorted, and I believe it was the 5-digit rate that was eliminated as well, those have now been removed from postage statements and software implementation. The carrier route basic rate has been removed for marketing mail automation letters. This one makes a lot of sense based on what we've seen the post office trying to do over the last many years. That basic carrier route rate has always been, as far as I've been working with it, a more expensive product than just the 5-digit in the same space. And now they're just rationalizing that rate by removing it completely from that product, and all the mail that, if you weren't already doing it, you'll be ultimately getting a better rate than you were before if you drop those pieces down to 5-digit. The marketing mail incentive has been extended for letters and flats that are mailed at high density plus rates. Previously, that was only available for saturation and EDDM. So now you can get another rate category for those high density plus pieces. And then nonprofit marketing mail parcel dimensions. Unlike basically all the other parcels, instead of changing from a machinable parcel to a non-standard parcel at the 22 by 18 by 15 inch dimensions, they're putting a hard cap on those marketing mail nonprofit marketing mail parcels, and that you just cannot mail a nonprofit marketing parcel if it goes above those dimensions. All right, I've talked a lot. Rosine, is there anything that that we should be swinging back to that you're looking at, or should we just jump right into the questions?
I think we should just go ahead and start answering everyone's questions.
All right, Brandon, what have we got in the chat for questions?
So I'm gonna go to the bottom of the Q&A and start from the oldest to the newest. So the first question from Ryan: we're hearing rumors that the SCF discount will be going away in January and that marketing mail will be going to zone pricing. Any truth to that? With a follow-up comment from Swiler Delt: I did not hear of an SCF discount going away. I would doubt that this would kill comminglers. However, the zone change is being proposed in January 2026.
Yeah, so real quick to kind of give a high level of what we're expecting from January. The post office already has proposed some of those changes to the PRC. They're in the same kind of movement forward state that BPM was last year, but the post office has done a little bit more communication on what they're hoping to get from the PRC in terms of turnaround. So one of those changes is, as noted, the addition of zones to marketing mail and periodicals. And then just to real quick mention the other ones, and we can jump to those as much as people are interested in them as well, is that periodicals will change their pricing structure to match much more closely what marketing mail does. We've got the BPM changes there that we've already mentioned. The post office has proposed to eliminate and replace ADC and AADC rates in a similar way to what they did with NDC, except that their goal is to move all those ADC and AADC rates to something like SCF, and basically a name change at that level, and then also eliminate those NDC remnants that we're seeing in marketing mail parcels. There is no push to eliminate SCF rates entirely, as far as I'm aware. What the post office is proposing and has ultimately done with this rate case as well is the SCF rates are diminishing a bit in terms of how much discount you're getting for those rates. They're not eliminating them. And then when you get to January, the addition of the zoned prices will purely be for non-destination entered mail. So anything that you'd be dropping to your origin or any other facility that does not get a destination rate, you would get a rate for the pieces on those containers based on how far the post office has to move it through their network. And that does not replace an SCF discount. That would be just for that non-destination entered mail.
Excellent. Chuck, you stated that you are not using the labeling list for pallets, NDC. Does that mean that the labeling list is incorrect now?
So and Rosine, feel free to interrupt me,
Yeah,
like I
right.
said, anywhere in here.
Wouldn't it be
The
like date dependent, depending on what date of labeling lists you would be selecting?
Yeah, so if you're doing a mailing with a mailing date after July 13th, what the software should be doing and moving forward based on the DMM rules is for those mixed pallets that are replacing mixed NDC pallets, the labeling list won't be used to label that pallet, right? And that was kind of what it was functionally for what the post office was doing previously. There's not much change there. They still will take that mail wherever you would be entering it because it's mixed mail. It's not getting any destination entry, and it's got no sortation rules about what can go on the pallet. But they're not labeling it based on where it's being entered anymore. So, for example, if you had been bringing a pallet and entering it in Milwaukee, it would have been getting a label based on the NDC that would have taken that mixed mail and broken it apart and worked it. Instead of that, the post office will just take that mixed pallet into its network now. BCC and other software providers won't label it based on where it's being entered. It'll just be called a mixed working pallet, and the post office will know that that means they send it to wherever mixed working mail gets worked. Um, so there shouldn't be anything wrong unless we have bugs, which in some cases there will be issues of how these things are labeled that need to be cleaned up. But in this case, the labeling list only affects those mixed pallets.
Okay, we had some questions in chat regarding BPM. What's replacing BPM? Responded with heavy printed matter HPM, but it's not approved yet, and it's not going to be approved until January. Is that correct?
That's correct. So BPM was originally targeted for the July 13th rate case. The PRC did not approve it, and so we've moved completely away from that being a possibility until January. We're still waiting for that approval, so we're not sure, 100% sure that January is where it will land, but that's the next best guess. What would replace it is, as you said there, Brandon, that there would be additional product added to marketing mail for the parcels side of BPM, and then they would expand the marketing mail flats to go up to the same range of dimensions that BPM would have covered previously. So I believe that would go up to 20 ounces in normal cases, and then at the carrier route level, you could go up to 24 ounces. And then the heavy printed matter would come in and replace bound printed matter parcels, and that would give us basic coverage for non-fulfillment based BPM pieces. It's possible that based on what you had been shipping in BPM would have to go to some other product within the post office if it was fulfillment based.
And then there's a follow-up question about will there be new rates for BPM in July rate case if it's not going away?
Yes, yep. The BPM rates have been updated and will be updated in the software when you get it. Those have all been the same amount of increase, well, not the same amount, but the amount of increase that was standard for the market dominant products within parcel package services.
Question from Jim Davis. Will the CSM container level code for marketing mail mixed pallets still be AG?
Yes, yes, it will. So for context for everybody else on the call here, and I guess to spread a little bit of what we're doing in the software as well, because we've got a good number of products that support the marketing mail parcels, and so can't change fully from a mixed NDC to mixed across the board because they kind of apply both. The mail.dat specification that Jim is referring to has a CSM, the container summary record that has the container level that, in this case, the pallet level, would have been, the value would have been AG, and that meant mixed NDC. What we did with the post office was work with them to make sure that required as few changes as possible. We kept the value the same, but that AG value now refers to both a mixed NDC or a mixed pallet. And because those things are structurally very similar, there shouldn't be a lot of changes there. And very likely what we'll see, again, this is just projecting a little bit in January, is that those mixed ADC and mixed AADC pallets would go to that level as well. But that's all guesswork at this point.
Question from Sean. Can you confirm how EntryDB will handle EP assignment moving forward for MM letters and flats? Will it only assign pallets to SCF/origin, even if NDC points are not marked as ignored?
Yes, that is how it will work. It will do that based on the DMM rules moving forward, which is to ignore or exclude NDC entry points.
Question from John. Since BPM is not going away for now, will there be new rates for BPM in July rate case? We already answered that. Thank you. Gary, when will the updated July 2025 rate case release for the Ignite base mailing pack be available? Until this version is released, do not use pre-sort service pack 44 with any red point/Ignite jobs.
Yes, so our Ignite product usually does not require updates when we get to regulatory changes. In this case, it did because NDC has been so ubiquitous across the board. There's things built in there that needed some updates. Those should be coming out. I don't want to say this week, but that's not impossible. Possibly next week. We're still working on release dates for finalizing a lot of these products. I guess in general, that's a good thing to call out. And Rosine, feel free to jump in wherever you would like to hear. Our products generally land in about the same place every rate case for that product line, right? Like our pre-sort and post-pre-sort products usually end up somewhere in the middle of the month prior to the rate case go live. Our bulk mailer, architect, mail manager products usually land either the week before that Postal 1 go live date or the week after, just depending on how everything works out. That's what we're expecting for this as well. And because Ignite is a unique situation here, we've had to pull a couple of different strings that we wouldn't normally have to pull. We'll be getting that out as soon as possible, but I don't have a final release date for that one just yet. Rosine, did I miss anything in there that's worth calling out?
No, but I just want to kind of clarify for like all our mail manager customers that happen to be listening. So there's a release going out today that will not have the rate case. It will just have the June CAS data files. So if you're expecting the rate case, it won't be there, but it'll have your June data files so you can extend your CAS data. And then the rate case should either be going out early next week or early the following week. Got a little weird with the holiday being kind of in there, but that's our goal. So
yes. Yep. In general, with our rate case releases, just to give you guys a little bit of a peek behind the curtain, sometimes we have a cadence that they match up really well with, that they just fall on that normal cadence. But in general, we try to get those out as soon as it makes sense based on how the work has gone and what we know customers are expecting for that product. So again, every product's slightly different. Mail Manager, again, is one that we usually release right around that Postal 1 go live date. I'd be very curious if people ever want that earlier, want to have conversations about how those release dates fall. In general, we have assumptions, but it's good to know if people have feedback on when they want the rate case releases. As soon as possible, usually, right? Like
Special shout out to Tammy and Zach, as well as other attendees here who are answering questions. You're doing an awesome job, so thank you very much. Question from Jim Davis. You stated that DMLs would need to comply with +1 rules. +1 requires the card and the host both to be addressed. DML requires only the card to be addressed. Will the DML hosts now need to be addressed prior to the January 4th implementation?
Yeah, that's a great question, Jim. I don't know off the top of my head. We'll have to follow up on that one for you. The rules that I was thinking of when I said that is the requirement that those DML or now +1 pieces be entered within 2 days and at the SCF relative to the same location that you're entering the flats at. There is a document out there that has not been updated for the new July rules. And we've been talking about what those would look like. And until we get something solid from the post office, I don't have solid answers for you on the addressing, but I will follow up with them.
All righty, where are we at? Let's see. Got quite a few questions. Look at that. Have new Kate Engel, have new rates officially been approved? I am under the impression that there are those that are trying to push this out/off for the new PMG to make the suggested rates.
Yeah, so the PRC has approved the market dominant rates. We are still waiting on the competitive rates to be approved. That means that we don't have final postage statements or the final files from the post office that are just labeled final, but we do know that those market dominant rates have been approved. There are conversations, and based on, at this point, it's very unlikely that we will see the rate case pushed off, but nothing is ever impossible. But there are a number of concerns within the industry that have been voiced at either user group meetings for MTAC or the DTAC meetings that that a good chunk of us are a part of, that have expressed concern about that July 13th date. Whether or not that date moves is going to be completely in the hand of the post office. And at this point, it seems pretty unlikely. But again, we'll keep an eye on it. And if something does change that is that major, we will communicate out and give everybody a heads up on what to expect from our software moving forward.
Question from Tim Fitzpatrick. How long is the grace period to continue dropping NDC rate mail? When will BCC full service version with changes be ready?
Yeah, so going back to what we know is that the post office is discussing a grace period. They have not put into writing or released anything about the actual time frame of that. So as soon as that's out, it should be an industry alert. So make sure you're subscribed to the industry alerts, and very likely we'll put that either up on our forums or send out a notification email that includes that information in it.
I encourage everybody here as well who's attending to check our customer service portal as well as the customer forums, because we try very, very hard to update those. Support does a really diligent effort there, and we're trying really hard to maximize the use of that portal.
Rosine, do you want to speak?
20...
Oops, sorry,
Yeah,
Brandon, just because I think I skipped half of that question. Rosine, do you want to speak to what we're expecting for the mail manager releases again?
So hopefully, mail manager full service version with the rate case will be early next week. If not early next week, it'll be early the following week. But our goal is early next week.
Okay, give me 1 second. The July 29 grace date for mail entry for pre-July 13th pricing still only applies to drop shipments, not origin entry of mail, correct? We are seamless, yes. So could auto finalize pre-July 13th, but could enter at the origin post-July 13th.
Yes, so that is the normal set of dates that is usually communicated when the post office does a major change here. You shouldn't expect anything different from those dates than what you would normally get.
Since the NDC rates will be going away, this is from Nick LaCapra. Since the NDC rates will be going away, what rate category will those pallets now qualify as?
Depends on what you're doing with that mail. And Rosine, feel free to jump in here. There might be something that I skim over based on the product that you would like to talk through. But if you are able to sort that mail more finely and get it on an SCF pallet, you can move those SCF pallets to an SCF destination and get SCF discount. If you cannot, that NDC pallet level is gone and it will not exist anymore. And those pieces will drop to a mixed rate, which will have no destination discount. So likely dropping at origin and getting those rates.
Question from Swiler Dell. Will there need to be any changes that will need to be made to saved pre-sorts, taskmaster scripts, MJBs, saved MDS files, etc.?
Rosine, do you know that one? I'm looking at
you. Taskmaster scripts at MJBs, most likely. If you use any saved pre-sort settings, you might kind of want to go back through there. The idea is, though, is if they do exist and you're on the new rate case, that they should just be ignored. But you just kind of want to make sure that, for a little while, that, you're spot checking it just to make sure that it did do what it's supposed to do.
Our goal is always to make it as painless as possible,
yeah.
Without introducing things that could cause more problems than making it painless would do. Sometimes that makes sense, and sometimes there's no clear pathway forward. So like Rosine said, make sure you're checking any automations, doing a quick test run through these things. If you see unexpected results, reach out to our software team, who will either walk you through what you should expect there or what settings need to be updated, or get an issue entered for our development team to look into.
Question from Jadina Cantrell. In pre-sort software, was any of the weights/heights or conditions changed on packages on pallets scheme? If so, which ones and why?
So we have this is for the BCC product is what I heard there. And those schemes that supported mixed. Brandon, could you repeat the first half of that question again? Which levels are they looking at?
In pre-sort software, with any of the weights/heights or conditions changed?
Gotcha. So any of the parameters or settings in pre-sort views that would have had to deal with NDC pallets, those parameters have been removed because those pallets no longer apply. And those mixed NDC pallet levels have all been changed to mixed where applicable. The specific height of any of those things shouldn't be changed if it's still around. And similar thing to in BCC pre-sort, we have those no sorting after parameters in a lot of those scheme blocks. We've removed levels from those. And that, again, we've done what we think makes the most sense for updating your jobs for you. But please take a look at what those jobs are doing and how they've been changed to based on our updating process. If there are questions there, make sure you reach out to our support team. But in general, we have either removed or commented out blocks that were specifically based on NDC.
Mary Bush, with the upcoming changes, do you see COPL making a resurgence? Is considering internal COPL a good strategy for MSPs to take advantage of drop shipping to SCF?
Yeah, so there's a lot of ways to go with this, and Rosine, you probably can jump in here too. For COPAL and for commingling and in general across the board, anything where you can get those better rates there, with a change this big, if it wasn't worth it before, it's definitely worth reinvestigating. I think there's always a chance, especially in first class, that if you can get things to an SCF level and get that SCF pallet discount, that's going to be beneficial. And then if you are able to generate those pallets that are going to make their way further into the USPS network, you're always going to have the benefits of better prices and better visibility and expectation into in-home dates. And it really always is going to depend on the individual scenarios and whether or not that's worth it. But I would definitely encourage folks to go out and look into those scenarios again, especially if they've got a vendor that can do that, or if they've got the ability to do that process in-house. Run some test jobs and compare the outputs and see if it's worth it for you to implement that process where it didn't used to be worth it before. Rosine, did I skip anything there? Anything you want to add about COPAL?
No, I think it would be beneficial for everybody to try to make as many SCF pallets as they can.
Yeah. The other thing that, good.
Oh, I'm done.
Okay. The other thing worth looking at there, just in general for good strategies, is find out if your minimums for those SCF pallets still make sense. It may be that you still want to make those at the same levels you've always done if you're making those in-house, but it may be that lowering those pallet minimums and making smaller SCF pallets gives you much better prices because all that mail that used to go NDC is now dropping to an even lower rate level. And so the more you can get on those SCF pallets is just going to benefit you.
Question from Donna. I'm sure she's saying, if rate case is early the following week, how can we handle the printing next week, as we will have to sort the files next week? Can we sort, and will the software update the sort with the new update?
Rosine, do you know offhand?
We always suggest don't install the rate case until you're ready. You're actually ready for the rate case, especially with this one, with all the changes. So if you have mailing this week and some mailing next week, if you have access to a standalone computer and want to try it out, go ahead and install the rate case when it's available. That way you're not introducing the rate case on your production line and you're not ready for it, because then you'll have to roll back and it just takes up a lot of time. So it's all depending on your production schedule of whether you're ready for it or not for mail manager customers. So if you're not ready for it, then I suggest holding off until you're ready for it.
Yeah. And if you are looking at sorting things this week, given that the release won't be coming out for another week or two, for those post July 13th dates, I would hesitate to tell you to move forward with that, especially knowing until we know for sure what the post office is going to do with their grace periods. It's possible anything you sort with today's software would be okay to submit, and you get those updated rates just by virtue of submitting it at past the 13th, but we don't know that for sure until they actually submit it. We are in a little bit of a weird time, unfortunately, where all we can do is get the software out as quickly as possible, but not knowing a full breadth of what the post office is going to allow, it's hard to recommend exactly what the right thing to do is. For sure, I would be playing around with scenarios and eliminating NDC sortations if you can to start getting an idea of what your sort is going to look like. But I can't say that for sure that sort's going to be exactly the same when you get the new software.
Question from Karen. What is the minimum the SCF pallet can be set to?
I believe it's the same as it always is, and I think that's 250 pounds. But Rosine, can you? I know there's exceptions to
Uh,
that too, so
so the standard minimum is 250 pounds as
it
long
is.
unless you have the exception with your, you know, your facility that's accepting your mail and whatever you agree to with them, you can set it down to. I think it's like 100 sometimes, depending on the facility that's accepting your mail, your verification facility.
Was that, Brandon, can you correct me if I misheard? Was that just for first class mail or was that for any pallet level?
It wasn't specified.
Okay, so it's going to depend on the class, and it'll depend on, like Rosine said, what your local facilities will allow.
Karen, did you want to clarify that question? If so, just add on an additional chat to that, and I'll take a look. Carrie, will the post-dat mail software update be date sensitive like in the past?
I believe it should be, and Rosine, if you know that off the top of your head, I don't directly work with that mail very often, so I don't know
Don't
how it has worked in the past.
either, probably something that Tammy could probably just comment on, because I don't know.
Yeah,
If it has in the past, I can't imagine that it would change.
that would be my assumption too. I can't imagine we do something different, and I haven't heard of anything that we're intentionally doing different, but we'll see if Sammy knows, and if not, we will follow up and let you know.
Tammy, if you can put a comment under Carrie's question, that would be wonderful. To clarify Karen's previous question regarding the SCF pallet, she said both. So I believe you answered her question.
Okay, great.
Another question. I know this would require a lot, but could BCC look into adding a toggle to switch between the new changes and the current state? Again, I know this would take a long time to implement, but BCC users would be grateful.
Yeah,
Mail
I hear
manager
I think we'll
customers,
keep it as a note for a feature
Yes.
update.
As an enhancement request noted, it would sure make things a lot simpler in a lot of cases. There are benefits to keeping it separate on both the user side and on the development side. And I'm sure there's more benefits to adding the ability to just switch between them. But some of our products do that today. They just handle both with a single installation, and some of them are separate. And where if you can install them in multiple places, then that gives you the benefit of running both simultaneously and choosing when to move into production. But obviously, a toggle there would simplify things in a lot of cases. So noted as a enhancement request.
There are a couple of questions that are lingering in chat that I don't think were carried over, so I'm going to address them now. Some of these have been already answered. One, can mail be entered at an NDC for timing purposes and forego DNDC savings?
It will depend on what the post office puts out for their grace period. In all likelihood, yes, there will be some grace period there that will allow you to enter those containers that have been prepared for NDC, are labeled as NDC, and if they were entered prior to July 13th, would have gotten a DNDC discount. Moving forward, the post office won't allow that, but I think there will be an overlap period where they will allow you to bring that mail that's already been prepared. It's just how long and what that exactly looks like, we're not sure yet.
Okay. We're moving right through here, so this is great. Can Can you explain once more the price change regarding carrier route basic rate being removed? I didn't catch everything you said regarding the pricing through other options. And then a secondary question, also what options are available to replace the carrier route option on bulk mailer?
Sure. So that on bulk mailer, those things should just drop to the correct rate as a result of it no longer being applicable to those that automation product. The options really, and just to generally say it, there may be better ways for any individual person to do this, but in general, the basic carrier out rate was already more expensive than the 5-digit rate for automation mail and for in marketing mail. And so removing it would mean that those fall down to a better rate. I believe all of our pre-sorting products, and I say that with an asterisk, knowing that there could be an exception in there, already had an option to skip that basic carrier out rate because it was already more expensive than the 5-digit rate just below it, right? So you may have already had that implemented in your software, and if not, you will be seeing a price that would have been better given the 5-digit rate was already better than the basic carrier out rate. Rosine, I don't know if you know offhand what that option was called in Mail Manager, but that might be worth calling out.
So yeah, it was prefer 5-digit auto and skip ECR basic. So those will just be going away.
Yep.
And just as soon as you select carrier route, block sequence, if you have anything that does not qualify for high density or higher, it'll just drop it down to 5 digits. So should be somewhat of a no-brainer, hopefully.
Yeah, it should be pretty transparent, right? You shouldn't have to do much more than just set up your mailing how you would have in the past, especially in bulk mailer. I know that option also existed, and Tammy, you may know offhand what that option was called as well, or Zach, you might know that if you want to put it in there. If you already had that option checked, basically in this case, it just will do what it always did.
Question from Chuck, in case you had already answered it, he missed it. When will the window book update take place?
I don't have a solid date for that, but I believe it is somewhere in between the Postal One go live date and the implementation date. I think it's usually in that window. Rosine, I don't know if you know offhand based on that.
I don't know. I went looking and there's still no date. So yeah,
Okay.
probably soon.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Again, soon, right? Like for window book and the DatMail product, for sure. We always try to get that out prior to that implementation date. It's just a question of how long, and I know they're still working on some active issues. So it's even if we had a guess, it might change at this point, but we are shooting for the before go live date on the July 13th.
So I believe that answers, will DatMail support both postage pricing before and after July 13th change?
Yeah, and I would say I guess I don't know if it has done that in the past, and I can reach out to that group and see if it has. And Tammy, you might know the answer to that as well.
Just looking to see. Here's a question from Susie, and I believe this is the last one. When in Entry DB, I can usually select future rates when there is going to be a rate change. I have not seen this available yet. When is that usually available?
Yeah, so the post pre-sort release should be coming out this month. We're shooting for sometime next week, whether it's at the beginning, or the middle, or the closer to the end of the week. We're not exactly 100% sure yet, but I know the goal was to get it. Actually, the goal was to get it out this week. I'm sorry, I'm not sure which week it is at the moment. I believe we're shooting to get that out this week. So possibly by the end of the week, if not, hopefully early next week. And I will confirm with that team that we're still on that track.
Question from Russell. If you update to the new rates using Mail Manager Full Service, then a rush job comes in that must go out prior to the 13th. What will happen if you upload the mail.dat? Will you get the pre-13th rate or the new rates?
So you'll get the pre-13th rates. However, your postage statement will have the new rates, so that might cause some confusion. And it also might depend on like the sortations that you're preparing your containers for.
Yeah, that's an interesting situation because usually we're worried about the opposite direction. If you're and just to confirm that Russell was talking about uploading that to Postal One, if that's the case, then yeah, I agree with Rosine that the Postal One will accept it. There's nothing in the post rate case, post July 13th, that would not be accepted if you uploaded it today for a pre-July 13th rate case. You just won't make it as efficiently as you could because you won't be getting NDC levels.
Question from Jim Davis. Not to belabor DMLs, but I am still a bit unclear about the rules DMLs will need to follow before January. I thought the
Yes.
only change to DML mailers is that the postage statement will show +1 rather than DML. Otherwise, all remains the same. Is that your understanding as well?
So, Jim, I do need to follow up with them because I am under the impression that there are additional rules that will start to apply when it becomes +1. And it's just the technical level of how that's reported in the mail.dat file is what that industry alert was trying to communicate. I don't have definitive answers because I think everything that I have is that industry alert in writing. And I, based on conversations I've heard, that's that they will still be trying to add in some of those additional entry point requirements and entry date, dropship dates as well. But I don't know if that's going to be on day one or if that's going to be moving into the future. I'm also unclear,
Okay.
unfortunately, because it's not well defined at this point.
Looks like we have another one come in. We have a standalone BCC box to test the new rates, and it really helps before going live with production. Thank you, Mark Campbell. Okay. We still have a couple hundred people, 230 people on this session. Does anybody else have any remaining questions that they want answered before we wrap up? Last call. Just so everyone's aware, we'll have a live recording of this going and available before the end of the week. So everyone who has registered, not just attended, but registered, will receive an email including the recording to this session, as well as a summary of the Q's and A's that will be linked via the BCC software website. So we'll have a Q&A summary page on our website that we'll link to that you can reference, as well as that handy dandy resource guide. I've seen a bunch of people have clicked over to it while we've been on this session, which is wonderful. And I encourage everybody to kind of revisit it, flip through it, and digest it at your own time. If you have questions, I know we have probably the best support team in the industry. So we're here for you to get through all of these changes. And we welcome any follow-up questions anybody might have. So please keep a lookout for an email from from marketing, from BCC this week with more information. And if anybody else has some last-minute questions, please drop them in chat. Otherwise, we will wrap up. I'll give you 2 minutes. I'm just combing through to make sure I didn't miss anybody. I think we got everything.
Kate dropped a question in the Q&A. Any idea when the new notice 123 will be available?
We're still waiting for the competitive prices to be approved till we get the final notice 123. Based on PRC history, that could be as late as the day before July 13th. Unfortunately, hopefully it's earlier this year. They seem to have gotten out ahead of the market dominant prices well enough. Hopefully we're not waiting till that last day. And the post office has indicated that unless they get some notification from the PRC that competitive will not be moving forward, they will be treating it as if it is in the process of rolling out their software. But the documentation will not be updated until they get the official approval to say final.
Wonderful. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Adam, Rosine, Tammy, Zach. You guys did an excellent job. And we will send everything out to everybody this week. So please keep a lookout for it. The registration page will stay up. So if anybody else wants to do some last-minute registrations for the event, you can, and then you'll be included. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful week, everybody, and stay cool. It's a very hot week out here.
Yes. Cool. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.